And let me to share my screen. We will start with this. So welcome everyone to this webinar. If you would like to say hello to each other, you can do it on chat. And meantime, we will start our presentation. So here are some rules for this meeting. Please also keep yourself muted. Otherwise, you'll be disturbing other people that are listening the webinar. Today, our webinar is about water sanitation and hygiene. And also, we will introduce you to the short campaigns that will be run through the Eco-Schools and Young Reporters for the Environment program. After the presentations, there will be time for questions to our main speaker from the UNICEF, Sylvain Bertrand, who will introduce himself in a moment. You can also write your questions on chat during the presentation. We will try to go back to this after the presentations are finished. At the end of the webinar, we will go to the presentation on Mentimeter with some questions to you. We will show you the link to this, but you can prepare also your phone or another device that you can use the Mentimeter for, and it will be on menti.com. If you wish to have a diploma of participation on this to this webinar, you can write your name and email on private chat to Saga Kinstrand, who's the co-host of this webinar, and she will collect all this information. We are also recording this webinar, and information will be uploaded on our website on Young Reporters for the Environment, yre.global/webinars. At this point, I also would like to invite you to the webinar that will be happening next week, which is about the campaign Children for Children, and we will be talking about climate change and schools affected by the hurricane in the Bahamas 2 years back, and some activities that can be done for the schools globally through our networks of schools. So warmly inviting you to this webinar next week. And now I will give the floor to our main speaker, Mr. Sylvain Bertrand from the UNICEF in Denmark. So I will stop sharing my screen, and Bertrand, if
Great. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen. Is it working? I hope it's working.
Yes, it's working perfectly. We can see it.
Great. Okay, so it's first of all, thank you for inviting me to present for your webinar. I mean, it's always an opportunity to be able to present UNICEF work, especially when we have younger participants for whom we work. So as mentioned by Gozia, I mean, the theme is water sanitation and hygiene, which is one of our main global program at UNICEF. Just as a disclaimer, I guess, I'm part of supply division in Denmark, as we will see later in the presentation. So I'm not in this position directly involved in programs, but luckily for you, I guess, I was working on programs before for the last 9 years with UNICEF, and I've been involved with NGO work before that. So overall, I think I've been in the WASH sector for 14 years. Yes, something like that. Great. So moving ahead, and I hope can you just tell me if my screen is moving?
Not yet.
Not yet. There we go.
We
Okay.
need to switch it off again and try. Oh yes, now we have the second slide.
Excellent. I figured it out. Great. Okay, so with that presentation, I will start with an introduction of UNICEF, so you better understand where we are coming from. Then I will move into our global WASH program and give you really a hint, you know, of what we're doing. It will not be possible to cover all the range of work we're doing in half an hour. And then I will move on to supply division, where I am now talking to you from, and more particularly the Water, Sanitation and Education Center, which is the business unit dealing with supporting WASH programs here at the supply division. And then we'll finish with a few ideas and actions you could take, and then the question and answers. Please, I don't know if in the chat of somewhere, but if I speak too fast, please don't hesitate to shout, or someone to put it in the chat, and I'm sure someone will let me know that I have to slow down. But English is not my first language. You may have guessed by my accent, so I'm sure we'll work it out fine. Great. So moving to UNICEF. So UNICEF came out after the Second World War, mainly to assist children that were victim of the war. So a lot of refugee children. So our core DNA is coming from emergency response, if we can put it that way, and really in support of children. And all our work is then or the basis of all our work is then written through the children's rights, the Convention of the Right of the Children. Sorry for the mistake. Which spells out all the children's rights, and which is really the core of our work and of our objectives. And in order to fulfill, or to, I guess we don't fulfill, it's mainly the parents and the governments who have that responsibility. But in order to help parents and government fulfill children's rights, we're working on several sectors. So child protection, child survival, education, gender, innovation, supply and logistics, research, and emergencies, which has its own category. So you see in all that water, sanitation, and hygiene is only one part of the whole work of the organization. And this work, so I mentioned the Convention of the Right of the Child, of course, but it has to be translated into more tangible objective. So right now, all our work is supporting the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure you've all heard of them. So those are common goals that have been agreed by the government and by the UN system in support of the governments. And obviously we cannot achieve the SDGs without the realization of child rights. So I just wanted to share with you a little resource that is out there called the World's Largest Lesson. So it's a tool that has been developed jointly by UNICEF and UNESCO. And it's on online resources. It's meant for children of all ages. And it's a great tool if you have internet connection, surely, to learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals. So I would really encourage you to visit that that page. So moving on how UNICEF supports those Sustainable Development Goals. So we have a strategic plans. You see that there's a lot of strategic plans and different layers of program within the organization. So the current strategic plan started in 2018, goes up to 2021, so next year, and is based on 5 pillars. So every child survives and thrives, every child learns, every child is protected from violence and exploitation, every child lives in a safe and clean environment, and every child has an equitable chance in life. So always also based on the rights of the child. For the WASH program, we're currently living under the goal 4. So every child lives in a safe and clean environment. But as you will see later, we also have a big part to play in the other goals. And with that, I'll move to the UNICEF WASH program. Okay, I'm gonna start with maybe some boring slides, but important for us. So we have a joint program with WHO called the Joint Monitoring Program, which is really a key tool for us to monitor progress originally towards the Millennium Development Goals, and now towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And so the first slide, it shows the current situation, or the situation in 2019 on access to drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene at household level. And this is the global picture. So for drinking water, 7 out of 10 people used safely managed drinking water services. And those are the data from 2019. Although it varies, not all countries are updated at the same date, the same year. So there's still 3 people in the world out of 10 that don't have access to safely managed drinking water services. And then within those who do not have access, 8 out of 10 people live in rural areas, and nearly half of them lived in least developed countries. So even though the global picture for drinking water doesn't look too bad, I suppose, it doesn't, when we look at the global picture, it doesn't show the inequalities that exist in the world, and mainly looking at the least developed countries and people living in rural areas. So those are the ones who are lacking access right now. And that question of inequality is for all the sectors, so sanitation and hygiene as well. As you see, the situation in terms of sanitation, and when we say sanitation here, we're really talking about having a toilet. So nothing really fancy. So 4 out of 10 people use safely managed sanitation services in 2019. So there's still a lot of progress there to make. So it's less than half of the global population. And again, out of those who do not have access to safely managed sanitation, 7 out of 10 lived in rural areas, and 1/3 are from least developed countries. So again, there's a big issue of inequality in terms of access. And to give you a bit of idea in terms of quantities, that's a bit more than 700 million people who used unimproved facilities. and 670 million who are still, so people who are still practicing open defecation, so they don't have a toilet at all. So there's still a lot of people out there to be reached. When we move on to hygiene, 3 out of 5 people had basic hand washing facilities in 2017. So those data are from 2017. And again, 3/4 are coming of those who do not have access come from least developed countries. And accessing a hand washing facility means also that there is water and soap at that facility all the time. And those are major constraints sometimes. So in terms of number, that's 1.6 billion people who have limited facilities, so they're lacking either soap or water. And 1.4, so 1.6 billion lacking either soap or water, and 1.4 billion who have no facility at all. So you can imagine in a context of a global pandemic like COVID, where one of the key messages is to wash your hands. Well, there's more than 2 billion people who just don't have the facility to do that at home. Okay, now I'll move to the situation in schools. So it'll be a bit easier because now you're probably a bit familiar with the format. But the situation in school is not better than in the households. So in 2016, we measured that 69% of schools had basic drinking water services. That's 770 million children lacking basic drinking water services at their school. So a lot of work to do there again as well. And half of those schools are in sub-Saharan Africa. For sanitation, the situation is even worse. So that's 66% of schools who had basic sanitation services, which translate into 620 million children worldwide who lacked basic sanitation services at their school. And again, 1/3 of those schools are in sub-Saharan Africa. For hygiene, it's only 53% of schools that had basic hygiene services. So we're going even down there. So roughly 900 million children who didn't have basic hygiene services at their school. So again, there's a lot of work to do there. And finally, I'll move on to the healthcare facility. So those are the sort of 3 areas that we're working on WASH, so household, school, and healthcare facilities. So for healthcare facilities, it's a new topic. So our main issue now, it's the lack of data. It's not that easy to collect and compile data on access to water, sanitation, and hygiene at the household level, at school level, and in health centers. But roughly 74% of healthcare facilities had basic water services. 1 in 5 healthcare facilities has no sanitation services. And 1 out of 6 healthcare facilities have no hygiene services. And those are data coming from 2016 and 2019. So again, a place where you're supposed to receive a treatment from disease, you don't have places to wash your hands. That's a real problem for in terms of health impact on the population. There's 2 other parameters on the healthcare facilities, which are waste management and cleaning. So those, again, we're lacking data. And sadly, COVID is also disturbed all the country plans to collect that data. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit more. Yes. So I just wanna maybe for you guys to have a little break of my voice. And I'll just show you a quick video. It's a 2-minute video, which was made by our country office in Ethiopia. Could you please confirm it's working?
It's breaking. So if you have link, we can maybe share this link on chat as well, and people can watch it, because it will depend of the strength of the internet connection that participants have. So it goes, but it's not smoothly.
Nope. Let me share the link. And it seems like I cannot. Okay, well, I've shared the link in the chat box, so it's on YouTube. So hopefully you can watch it. I think it's a the video is, there's not a lot of talking, there's not a lot of reading, but it really explains, you know, the dire situation of some people just to be able to access drinking water. You know, something that we think is we take for granted here in Denmark, for example. Okay, then I'll move on to our global WASH strategy. And again, I will need to link that strategy to the SDG. That's really our anchor point. That's the common anchor point for all the UN agencies and for all the governments. And the SDGs are very ambitious. So by 2030, we want to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. So I think this is, we have 10 years left. There's not a lot, or 9 years. I guess 2020 is almost finished. And achieving universal access is really challenging, definitely. Likewise for sanitation. So by 2030, achieve access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all, and end open defecation. Paying special attention to the needs of women and girls and those in vulnerable situations. So again, very ambitious goals, and we all need to work really hard for that. So how do we reach those goals? Well, UNICEF is one player, but it's not the only one. And that's where our global strategy comes in place. So it provides a strategic framework with a vision around the human rights. So always, you know, we have that human rights and especially child rights in mind. And it's a set of programming principles to guide all our efforts on WASH. So the framework itself is a tool. It sets out a range of programming approaches and results areas, which then each country office would use to design their context-specific response. So it's a set of tools, and depending on the context of the country, they will pick some tools to apply. And this is all discussions, conducted with governments. Our work has to align with government's priorities. And something also that doesn't appear very well, but that's very important. Well, it appears at the bottom, is that all this work and the strategy has to be backed up by robust evidence and the monitoring. The monitoring is key to know whether what we're doing moves the right way, and whether we can or not, and whether we can improve our work as well. So I mentioned earlier that WASH was under the goal 4 on a clean environment. However, I also mentioned that it's supporting the other goals. And I really like this this diagram because it really shows how water sanitation and hygiene is essential to the child development, from pre-birth, so pregnancy, to adulthood. So our work has its own goals, but also comes to support other goals. For example, sanitation and hygiene interventions, reduce diarrhea morbidity in the infant, of a 2-year-old. And it also contributes to reducing the incidence of stunting, so anything linked with malnutrition. As we saw earlier, also, access to water sanitation and hygiene is essential to health facilities. Can you imagine giving birth to a child without having any water in the healthcare facility? But it's not just a matter of health; it's also a matter of dignity. So yes, that diagram, really shows how WASH contributes, across the life course of a child. Excuse me. I've not been talking that long for some time. Okay, now I will bring you to our supply division, where I now sit. So the supply division, so based in Copenhagen, Denmark, it's part of UNICEF headquarters. We have 3, one in New York, one in Geneva, and one in Copenhagen. And it's the home of the largest humanitarian warehouse. So a lot of our work will consist in supporting country response to emergencies by sending emergency material, quickly where it's needed. Just to give you an idea of the volume of the products we're dealing with here. So overall, it's around 3.8 billion US dollar of supply and services that we've facilitated in 2019. You can see that WASH is not the main products that we're dealing with at supply division. A lot are vaccines. In fact, UNICEF supply division supports our country programs, but we also support governments in some of their procurement. So if a government wants to buy vaccines for their vaccine program, they will often buy it through UNICEF. we get less order from government for wash material. It's mainly for programs and a lot for emergency responses. But our work is not only just delivering products. We also work on influencing markets so that products, essential products, are available in where it's needed. So in the countries, which is a much more efficient way to have access to services rather than to ship, from abroad all the time. We're also a center of expertise, so we provide a lot of advice as well as building capacities to governments. And we also work on our different policies in terms of supply chain. So this is just one example of how we work to strengthen supply chain. And it's not just delivering the products. It starts from defining the needs, and it goes all the way to monitoring the use of the products, and then improving the products or bringing corrections. So it's a very complex work. And then finally, I'll just briefly.
I'm sorry, somehow you are unmuted.
Did you miss a lot? Oh.
Maybe I think just one phrase.
Okay, so finally, I will take you to the Water Sanitation and Education Center, which is the business unit within Supply Division where I sit. So our role is really to support our country programs with wash products. Okay, and there is nothing new there. I think this is really a summary of what we've seen previously for either for the WASH strategy or for supply division in itself. So we have 5 pillars, sorry. So procurement, capacity development, technology assessment, market shaping, and innovation. Maybe one that is very interesting and that did not mention that much earlier is the innovation aspect. So with our colleagues at program level, we're able to identify gaps or product gaps in the market. And based on those gaps, we define the needs, and then we work with businesses and suppliers to develop new products. So some interesting one, I think a few months ago, we launched a disability add-on for emergency toilets. So just to adapt the standard emergency toilet that is used by many NGOs and UN agencies with an add-on to make it easier, more accessible for people with disabilities of reduced mobility. So those are sort of the type of innovations or new products that we would develop with supplier based on needs that have been identified. And then finally, some suggestions on how you could take action, related to water sanitation and hygiene. So the first one, I think, which is around the corner, in a couple of weeks, is that on the 15th of October, it's a Global Hand Washing Day. The day is often celebrated in all the country programs and at our headquarters, although this year with COVID-19, I guess celebration is going to be minimal or online. But I would really encourage you to visit the site. I've put the reference and the link on the on the presentation, and you can actually, there's a lot of suggestions on how you can launch an event or conduct an event for the Global Hand Washing Day. There's media and social media kit resources, and you can also post your event so that it's seen by the whole hand washing community. Another event to keep in mind is the World Toilet Day on the 19th of November. So same principle as the Global Hand Washing Day. You'll find a lot of resources and social media materials available. You can launch a campaign at your level, at your school, others, just to raise the general awareness of the fact that more than 4 billion people do not have access to safely managed sanitation. And here again, we're talking about having a toilet, nothing complicated in some of our countries, but much more difficult to have in others. And I think again on that site you can post your event, so you can share what you're doing to the global community. And finally, through the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously it has a big impact on the life of children. So UNICEF has been working with a health expert to develop sets of tools, to help parents as well. So we have a information center on our website where you'll find tips on how to talk to children about COVID-19, also how to wash your hands properly, and also on how to talk to teenagers or help teenagers deal with maybe some of the stress linked with being confined. There's also some other resources on a framework for reopening schools. This is a joint work between UNESCO, the World Bank, the World Food Programme, and UNICEF. So that might be of interest in some of the school. And also, so through the joint monitoring program that I mentioned earlier, there was a special report on progress of drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene in school in the COVID-19 situation. So that's also very interesting, and you could also have a look where your country, as I understand, the audience is coming from several countries, where your country stand in terms of access to drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present a bit the work of UNICEF. And there's some more resources at the end, but that I'll let you have a look through it afterwards. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sylvain. And I understand that this presentation, we will be able to share it with participants somehow. So they can use the links that you presented over there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll send it to you, and then you can share it with the participants.
Yeah, of course. Before we go to my presentation, on chat we had 2 questions, and one was, are there new educational tools that would be easier to install these notations in young people, especially from the early age? Is there anything that you can say on this, or from the materials that you shared?
Can you repeat again, please?
Are there new educational tools that would make much easier to install this notification for young people about the wash and sanitation? That's what I understand from the question. And educational tools for educating on the wash.
Okay, so it's a bit challenging because educational tools have to be designed based on the country context. So each country program will design their own educational tool. So we have some more general ones, like the ones I presented at the end in the tips, but we don't have a global educational tool, because it really has to be designed based on the country context, the culture, and the environment.
Mm. Yes, thank you so much. And good that you mentioned about this regional UNICEF offices, that everyone who's participating in this webinar should have a look. And there are appropriate materials and educational tools also for schools in primary and secondary level, adjusted for the culture and situation in every country. So we recommend it more, like very strongly, to everyone to have a look on the regional UNICEF websites.
Definitely. I mean, I think I saw quite a few participants, it seems, from India.
Mm-hmm.
And our India office is very active, and they have a website which is open to the public, and where they post all their educational tools. So whether it's for water, sanitation and hygiene, or the other programs, education, immunization. So there's a lot of resources there, and often in the local languages. Always in the local languages, actually.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I think we will come back to some other questions at the end of this presentation. So thank you so much, Sylvain.
You're welcome.
Now, I will share a bit information about our WASH campaign that we are going to launch tomorrow on the 1st of October for the young reporters for the environment program and Eco-Schools, with different activities. And this campaign is designed for students, especially in the countries that are still on the lockdown and the challenge, they are facing the challenges related to COVID-19. But every student that is part of our program can be involved in this campaign, and schools can largely participate. For this coming year, we will launch 4 small campaigns that will be like run in through our programs every 2 months. And the first campaign that we start on the 1st of October is about water, sanitation and hygiene. And we will show some small examples of activities that can be done, but also the ones that Sylvain just presented. On the 15th of October, the what was the hand washing day, and in November, the day of access to sanitation. And we will highlight this challenges as well as part of the campaigns. And then in December, we will start a campaign about waste management and littering. And by spring, about biodiversity and health and nutrition and well-being. All campaigns will be run as small competitions. So you can attend on different activities that will be presented there, and contribute with these activities through both programs, Eco-Schools and YRE. As I said, there will be weekly challenges that will be presented on our websites. And if you want to attend, you need to also use the hashtags, like hashtag Eco-Schools stay active and hashtag YRE stay active, depending on which of the campaign you want to participate. And as I said, there will be a small mini competition organized for both programs. In case of Eco-Schools, we are asking to submit a small videos related to the challenges that are for the Eco-Schools. In case of YRE, you can submit different type of media stories that are based on some stories written on blogs, articles, photos, podcasts, videos, TikToks, and others. So there is large opportunities to express yourself through different tools. And then the submission have to be submitted to the program, to the Eco-Schools and YRE by national operator from each of the country by the 9th of November. Challenges are open to every school and every student that is part of the program in the country that the program is operated there. Here you have links for when you can find which, if the country is part of the competition or the part of the Eco-Schools and Young Reporters for the Environment program. Or if you are from the international schools, you can also participate in this. Now here are a little more about the technicalities for both competitions. In the case of Eco-Schools Stay Active, there are few acceptance criteria that are related to the stories that you would like to present through the video. And the video must be in like maximum 3 minutes. It has to be in English or with subtitles. It need to highlight the relevant topic about WASH and sanitation, and need to be published on at least social media platforms that with the hashtags Eco-Schools Stay Active. And then the best story from the country will be submitted by the national operator to the Eco-Schools program. And for the assessment criteria, we will use 2 aspects that will be assessed. How would you rate the technical quality of the video? And the second, how well does the video address the theme of the campaign and showcase positive actions to address the challenge? So you have to look through the activities about WASH program and show some positive solutions and that you would like to present through this. At the end of this campaign, as I mentioned, the winners will receive a diploma as well as a small prize that will be distributed through the national operators. In the case of YRE Stay Active, also the entry need to be presented in English. And as I mentioned before, here the varieties of media tools are larger, so you can use blogs, articles, photos, podcasts, TikToks, videos, and others. They are all listed on our website. The entry also must address a topic relevant to the campaign and must be posted on some media platform or with the hashtags YRE Stay Active. It also needs to be submitted to us through the national operator, and it will be assessed based on 5 criteria. So how would you rate the quality of the content of the story? How would you rate the technical quality? To what extent is the length appropriate to the media type? Because here we don't define that this video must be 1 minute or 3 minutes, or it's a photo story of larger amount of photos. But you have to submit the story that is also consistent and it not exceeds with the large amount of time and photos, and that is not relevant. So it's better you make it shorter, but to the topic. How well does the entry address the theme of the competition? In this case, WASH and sanitation. And to what extent it also shows the positive aspect of the story. As well, like in the Eco-Schools campaign, this will be awarded with diplomas and small prizes. Here a bit about the challenges that are possible for the Eco-Schools Stay Active. And the stories you can present is, for example, you can organize a family lesson on how sanitation and hygiene behaviors can prevent an increase of the pandemic, like hand washing, face mask, littering, sneezing on elbow, and covering mouth, social distancing. The other challenge that you can use is also investigate how clean water is supplied to home and how to minimize the use. So that's another video that you can prepare. Investigate and present the challenges to have access to clean water and sanitation from your country, or you can look also for some interviews, some people from another country. Present through the Eco-Code ideas for other schools and families how to organize a hygiene system at home, in communities or schools. And present a guide on how to keep social distancing on the way from and to home. So these are examples of challenges for Eco-Schools, and we will be posting them on social media, but you can use also other aspects. We will be also creating some other aspects or some other challenges for this, for example, about the hand washing day. For YRE, there will be another challenges that will be also presented. And in this, it's like, for example, find ways to promote positive hygiene behaviors and document any behavior change in your community through a short video or photo series. distinguish key hygiene behavior needed to the community, and conduct a survey to find out to which extent these behaviors are being implemented. Present your findings through a short video, podcast, or photo series. Record an online interview with a local politician, experts, or what challenges your community is facing concerning sanitation. Or interview students from other YRE countries on challenges related to water and sanitation. And also you need to post this on with the hashtag YRE Stay Active. And as I mentioned, the same in the Eco-Schools, there might be other challenges that will be shared and published. We will use these challenges to boost activities through on social media. So you can get inspired through these stories that will be presented through different social media with the hashtags related to the campaign, and also get more information from national operator on your country level. So you can contact national operators, ask for more information, explanation or idea, or discuss some ideas for the challenges. There will be more meetings, online meetings and webinars related to the campaigns. This was the webinar that introduced us to the WASH and aspect for different countries and activities that UNICEF is going, but there will be others that will be follow the theme. So thank you for this, and I hope you will enjoy and you will largely join our campaigns. I will stop sharing this, and I want to go back to the chat. I haven't seen it on the when I was making the presentation, so now I will maybe scroll and check some of the questions that are here before we will go to final questions on Mentimeter. And I could see that there was a question if the same story can be submitted both to Eco-Schools and the YRE competition. I would say rather no, because we are closely working together. So if you think that this video is more relevant for Eco-Schools, keep it for Eco-Schools. If you can create another story for YRE, do it separately. We don't want to award the same stories through both programs because we are working together. Can a non-member country be eligible to apply to the competition? Not in that case, but we will be happy to share your stories. And if the schools from a country that is not our member is interested in participating in the campaign, you are very welcome. Use the hashtags and share the stories with us. We will promote it widely, but unfortunately, we have limited number of countries in that case to participate in the competition itself. And can we have the presentation that I was presenting here? Of course, we will share the presentation, detailed description of the campaigns with national operators. And it is also published already on our websites. I mean, the information about the short campaigns is visible on the websites. Plus, there will be some additional information that are shared and can be presented and will be shared with national operators. Now, I will go to some more questions that we have. I hope to make this webinar a bit more interactive, and I hope you will enjoy. Just let me to share my screen in a moment. So we will also get some feedback from you about the webinar and how you think that it was interesting, or if you have any other questions that we can answer to you. If you can go to www.menti.com and use the code 81 14 70 and 7. And if you are here, if you can let me know if you have any other questions or no questions. We have few like interactive questions to get some feedback from you about the webinar or some other information. But for now, maybe if you have, you can use your phone or computer or open another page. And when you enter the menti.com, if you can use this code 81 14 70 and 7. If you don't have access or you are not able to do it, you can still place your feedback on chat for this webinar. I will just give you some minutes so you can enter the Mentimeter. Good, thank you. I see that some of you are already joining the Mentimeter. I will wait for some of the questions and information from participants. If you don't have any questions, it's also okay, and we can move like in 1-2 minutes to another question that we have here.
Gosia, I see there's a question from Margarita
yes?
about how can we connect with students from other countries that are also in this challenge for an interview, for example? Can it be a cooperation work?
Yes, it can be cooperation work. Yeah. So I think it can be a story that is submitted by 2 countries and presented in that way. Thanks. I think I will move to another question that we have on Mentimeter. And here we have 2 questions. Did you find the WASH program useful? And did you find the Eco-Schools Stay Active and YRE Stay Active campaign and mini competition interesting? Christina, if you will find other questions on the Mentimeter, please let me know. And not on Mentimeter, on chat. Let me know, because somehow I don't see it when I have full screen.
Yes, no worries. There's no more questions at the moment.
Thank you. And thank you for this, and that you find this also interesting. You can still place your feedback on this, and I will move to another question. It's more related to the presentation that Sylvain was telling. What is the benefit of the WASH program being introduced at your school? So it's more to you to reflect on that, if some activities on the school ground can be introduced in the relation to the WASH program, or what would be important, or what would be the challenge that you will face in your school in the relation to the WASH program, or if you are also staying home during this COVID-19 time, if you are also facing some challenges related to water and sanitation, and some of the activities can help with this. Yes, safe environment, it's definitely one of the very important aspects.
Hey, Gosia, maybe meanwhile, there's actually one question in the chat asking, can we interview students from countries that are not in YRE?
Yes. I think if this story will be submitted by the country that is part of the YRE program, I think there will be very good idea also to get connected with the students from other countries. And in that case, they can kind of join the campaign as well. Yes, thank you so much. It's, yes, exactly. Hygiene is one of the highest, and yeah, raising awareness, and yeah, there's and healthy and empathy. Thank you so much. You still can introduce some of the feedback on this. Going to the next question because the time is quite short. And also the question related to the campaigns. Do you feel confident now of running the Eco-Schools Stay Active and YRE Stay Active campaigns at your school? Those campaigns are also designed to give some fun and some easy activities that can be done by students, but also to raise awareness and knowledge through those simple tools that can be used for the campaign.
And Gosia, maybe just one more question from
Yes.
the chat. So how can we connect with students from other countries that are also in this challenge?
I think that can be done also through us. So if there is any particular interest of connecting students from some specific country, you can write to us and we will try to match it with students from other countries. Otherwise, you can find also contact to national operator that is from other country on our websites and contact directly, and this national operator will contact with the school from other country. So thank you. And there is one question that we have. We are running those webinars on a frequent way. I was already announcing that next week on Tuesday we will have another webinar that will be about the Children for Children campaign. And in that case, we really would like to ask you what time would be the best for you to actually join the webinar. We are trying to optimize the time when or if this webinar for students or the webinar for teachers, when it's for you the easiest time to join and participate in the webinar as a live webinar. So then we will try to adjust our time as well for the future webinars. We are asking for a time in Copenhagen time, so Central European time. But yeah, it looks like that if we push our webinars like 1 hour later than we do now, maybe it will be easier for some of you to join as well. So thank you so much for this. And also thank you for participating in our webinars. If there are some other questions, needs that you have in relation to the webinar, do not hesitate to contact us. And Sylvain, I would like to thank you so much for your presentation and fantastic information and very informative on work that UNICEF is doing, and also all the activities and links that you placed in the presentation that will be very useful for our network. So thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
And we will share all the presentations with participants of the webinar. And also recordings from the webinar will be uploaded on the website. So if you would like to watch it later or share with someone from your country, please do not hesitate to do it. So thank you so much. And once again, I'm inviting you for the webinar next week, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.